Hello, welcome to IERLab Podcast. Now, who is IERLab? IERLab is the Influencer Ethnography Research Lab located at Curtin University in Perth, Western Australia. We specialize in the methodologies and the pedagogies of influencer research. I'm your host, Walter Lee, so let's get into today's episode. Today, we'll be focusing on influencers in China, the history behind, and how platforms shape vocabs and terms about influencers in Chinese markets. Now, today's guest is Dr. Jia Guo, who holds a PhD in Gender and Cultural Studies from the University of Sydney. Now, her research focuses on feminist media studies and influencer cultures in China. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jia.
Hello, thanks for having me.
It's lovely to have you. Now, it's a recurring question on this podcast. Everyone would like to know, how did you get into your research?
I would say mostly interests. So my education background is journalism and communication. So I have always been enjoying studying social media and the internet culture. So I'm, of course, myself, I am a very heavy social media user. I'm like on social media all the time. So in about like 2016, 17, I just really loved watching makeup tutorials and like beauty and fashion vlogs online. So I just applied a PhD to do more research on beauty and fashion influencers, just because I was just so interested in. And then my research kind of expands to other types of influencers and influence cultures and economies. And that just takes where I am now.
That's really interesting. So you started off with just simply beauty influencing and just makeup, etc. And now you're completely deep into the social media world of actually learning about it. That's a very fascinating start to come from, especially when I don't expect beauty and what you have now studied. Which is similar in a way, but there's also what I would imagine are some differences. But in China, influencers are called Wanghong, right? So can you
Yes.
maybe introduce this term and what is the history behind Wanghong?
So the literal translation of Hong to English is internet red. So which just means people who are famous through the internet and on the internet. So the first generation of Hong, or maybe we can call them influencers in China, they appeared in the early 2000s, but they were very different from what like Chinese Hong or influencers are today. So the first generation in the early 2000s, they were mostly blog writers and people who got famous in BBS forums. However, I would say most of these people, they didn't have their fames lasting long, or they just didn't successfully monetize enough from
Hmm.
their online fames. So, and the second generation, I would say they are more like they expand like to today. So they basically establish themselves like around 2015. And at the beginning, they were mostly young women who promoted beauty and fashion products or owned their own online shops. It's just kind of like I was like a very just like audience at that time was very interested in just like watching these things all the time. And then just a kind of a profit chain that just between the platforms, MCN, or we call them agency companies, advertisers, and Hong, just individual influencers, just have been developed and lasted until today. But now Hong, this term in China is more like an umbrella term. It's not only like refers to these young women, but more generally referring to people who with like fames who have this online attentions and online traffic on Chinese social media. And also the demographic of Hong individuals is just much more diversified compared to 10 years ago.
Hmm. When you say diversified, what exactly do you mean?
So yes, it's more like before like just mostly when people talked about Wang Hong, like kind of this like stereotypical image will be like a young woman, this kind of traditionally beautiful, attractive, pretty, cute.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's actually like more and more different social groups join this kind of influencers team, or like we can call them content creator, we call them 网红. They are like not only women, other genders, not only young people, but people from kind of different ages, and also not only this like stereotypical middle class, but like all the different social classes people like would join this group, which we can call them 网红.
Okay. And this is a off-topic question, but you mentioned BBS forums. That was like the first generation of social media in China. Do you remember being a part of these sort of forums, or was it a little bit too early for you at that time?
I was kind of like a little bit too young, like to
Hmm.
really understand, but I was still kind of part of that like age when I started using internet, because like my family got like a PC kind of like I would say early in China when I was in grade 1, so
Hmm.
year 1. So yes, I would say I was like actually in that age I was using the internet, but I was just a bit too young to like really understand what happened.
Yes. For me, social media was sort of started to get very popular when I was in my late teens, I think. And that was with the in Australia where I grew up, that was with the rise of MySpace, and then Facebook came
Yeah.
through. Um, so I was unlucky or lucky enough to actually understand the platform, but it was very new to me as well. I can't believe social media has evolved so quickly in such a short period of time. I wasn't so much into blogs or forums, but I did really spend a lot too much time on MySpace, if I have to be honest with you. But I'm going to move on to our next question. Now, in the IERLab report called Platform Creator Discourse, now, Professor Crystal Abedin and you talked about how platforms in China shape vocabs and terms around Wanghong. Now, can you please expand on this a little?
So I think the design of the research was because, as I just mentioned, we just discussed, Wang Hong now becomes this like an umbrella term, and also this demography of Wang Hong is actually very diverse. So the question, such as like what kinds of social media personas can be called Wang Hong in China, or what Wang Hong means, might
Hmm.
get different answers in different situations,
Hmm.
such as we ask, of course, people from different generations, the young kids, the generation Z, or like just like like me. So you
Hmm.
might have different like answers, or like when we discuss on different social media platforms.
Hmm.
Also, just at the same time, there are many other similar terms, like similar to like in English.
Hmm.
Besides influencer, we also use terms such as content creator,
Hmm.
YouTuber, TikToker, KOL. So in Chinese, it kind of is the same. There are also so many different terms or words or vocabularies that can describe people with fame or people wanting fame through social media. So our report basically just argues in Chinese markets. So these powerful platforms like Douyin, which is the TikTok, the Chinese version of TikTok.
Hmm.
So these powerful platforms in China impact and shape how people call Wang Hong, or how people understand influencers in China. So I will give you like an example.
Hmm.
So one important argument we made in this report is that Chinese platforms define Wang Hong by the individual ability to monetize their online traffic,
Hmm.
and platforms also often describe the barriers of making money through posting things on their platform as very low. So it's very easy to get money
Hmm.
by posting things. So the idea that everyone could become a Wang Hong, but more importantly, everyone could make money on this platform, it just promoted very heavily by Chinese platforms. And
Hmm.
also this kind of promotion impacts how they may describe and also how we may understand Wang Hong in China.
Do you think the younger generation, I know that in most of the world, a lot of children these days want to become, I guess, YouTubers or influencers. Do you like, this is also an off-topic question, but do you see the Chinese youth also strive to be Wang Hong as well, or is it changing the younger generation?
Of course, this kind of like the similar, like it really like in around the world in a lot of countries, this kind of same things happening. So like government organizations, they did this surveys to say, what is your dream job? And all the like younger kids, so like live
Hmm.
streamer, TikToker, YouTuber, influencer. Yes, this is exactly the same in China. So yeah, all the media and government also did that kind of like career surveys, and it
Hmm.
just happens everywhere. I think it's kind of, I mean, like it's understandable that kind of appealing. So
Hmm.
it's this idea like you do what you love and make money. So all
Hmm.
this like this job looks very glamorous. I
Hmm.
think it would be like in everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's good to see that it's very, this is also very different to me when I used to teach in a kindergarten, and I asked the question to all these students, like, what do you want to be when you get older? In my generation, we used to say police officers, we used to say firefighters or doctors, etc., etc. Now, the main answer I get is influencer or YouTuber or gamer. And to me, that's very foreign, but it's shaping the influencer world is definitely changing the generations to come. And it's quite interesting that it's also exactly the same in China as well, despite, China having their own sort of platforms per se that they're not so much with the outside platforms, but you have a glossary of terms for different kinds of influences in China, and there are their activities in the report. Can you please explain which ones you find the most interesting or the public should know about?
I think the most interesting term would be in Chinese is 直播带货, which can be understood as live stream selling products. So 直播 is just live streaming, and 带货 is more just like selling things. So it is very popular in China that people go on Douyin, the Chinese TikTok or like other platforms to watch live stream which promotes products and buy products directly in the live stream. So
Hmm.
at the beginning, this kind of live stream hosts, they mostly just influencers, Hongs, and now there are many traditional celebrities like actors, singers, and also shop owners. It's like more kind of like ordinary
Hmm.
people we could say like all join and like work as this 带货 live stream hosts. So they promote stuff in the live stream rooms. And in these live stream rooms, this host would introduce the products, promote them, and also give buttons or like links that you can just buy these products without leaving the live stream room. And also there would be discounts if you buy through them. So 直播带货 is just so popular in China, and just even my grandparents, they sometimes buy things from live
Oh.
stream rooms. I would say I would say that's pretty impressive. They both like over 80 years old now.
Oh, wow.
Um, it's yes. It's just like Douyin is everywhere in China. It just like now this like 直播带货, this live stream selling stuff is one of the major monetization methods for Wang Hong, and also a major motivation for the e-commerce increase in China.
So, in a lot of Western YouTube or influencers, usually they are sponsored by, I don't know, something. It could be sponsored
Yeah.
by like a drink or a makeup product, but that sometimes isn't the main content of the show. Usually it's like almost like an advertisement on a TV, for instance. The content in for the Wang Hong, are they just doing products? Is that the content itself, or is it a part of like other content, like they talk about, example, their day or something, or is it simply just about selling?
So in this particular type, or in this, I would say in this particular genre, when we say like 带货, so the actual content, mostly live stream, sometimes will be like short videos. Just the content is just selling this product. So like
Hmm.
promoting. But like the genre you just like said, like all these influencers, they get sponsorship from like a
Hmm.
brand or product, like they make more like an advertisement. That's
Hmm.
also very common, like on Chinese social media. That part is kind of the same.
Hmm.
But just only this 直播带货. So you go into this like live stream, you just watch all the promoting kind of like products. They just sell and then you just buy. So yeah, that's kind
Wow.
of a big thing. Yeah. It's just
Ah,
how crazy the e-commerce is in China.
it's almost like home shopping, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say like to some kind of extent, it is a little bit similar to like TV shopping before,
Hmm.
but I would say this is like more interactive and also really depends like who is this host. So this host can like in most situations is this like a big name Wang Hong or influencer. So that
Hmm.
kind of your motivation of buying stuff, of course you might need this product or you want to buy this stuff, but also this like one of the elements is that you actually trust this Wang Hong or this live stream influencer. So
Okay.
you believe they will give you the best discount, or you believe they are like very professional, for example, in like selecting beauty products or in selecting fashion or selecting other kind of types of product.
It must be very, I guess the Wang Hong, must be very careful with what they sell because their whole reputation is sort of on the line if they sell something that is not good or if they sell something that is considered less than what they are pitching out to the people. Uh, i- can I say that, like, if they sell something bad, it completely can ruin their reputation?
Yes, that's actually happens to some like kind of Wang Hong and like some of this like controversial like let's just say like hate kind of comments online
Hmm.
towards this kind of influencers a lot of times just yes they didn't like select good products, the discount is not good enough. I feel like I just like got like a fraud like in their live stream room. So this is some of these kind of discussions like comments online. It's definitely just as you just described.
Now, just moving on to our last question today. Now, how would you describe the value of this report, your report platform, Creative Discourse, and to whom would you recommend them to read, or who would you recommend this report for?
So I think the biggest contribution of this report is that it is like generally introduces platforms, these Wanhong cultures, and also economies in Chinese markets, but we use English language. So influencer cultures in different countries and regions, of course, would have the different features or like characters. So this report and also of course many other research projects from the IERLab provide this device-centric and diverse perspectives to understand the influences social media and digital cultures in the Asian Pacific areas. I would say this is just the value of our research that I believe is very important just to introduce to like kind of deliver this information to like wider readers to say, oh yes, platforms like influence the cultures and economies in China, you would find all the similar parts as like if you're from like an English speaking country, you will find the similar things with YouTube or with Instagram. But of course, you would also find this so different and fascinating things like happening in China, just like a bit different. Um, So I recommend this report, of course, to students and researchers who study social media platforms and digital cultures. But also, I also just recommend this report to anyone who, like reads in English and who is interested in influences in China, in Chinese social media and e-commerce platforms, and just in, how influencers make money in China.
Excellent. So just a review of the title. It's called Platform Creator Discourse. Now, Dr. Jia Guo, it's been absolutely a pleasure to talk to you, but would you like to promote anything, examples, some future studies or current works or any potential work that you have going on at the moment?
Yes, so actually my main research focus, as Walter introduced me before, is actually on gender and women's cultures on social media. I'm a feminist media study researcher. So yes, in the future, if I would have another chance to go on this podcast, it would be great if I could just introduce some of my research on gender and the influence cultures, mostly in the content of China, like about Chinese young women. That just would be great.
So just quickly, just talking about that, what inspired you to start that area of research?
The gender one.
Yes.
Yes, so I am a feminist. I identify as a feminist since I was a teenager, but I'm also very interested in at the beginning the beauty kind of influences. At the beginning, my biggest question was at that time there was so many young women, even people around me. They were not influencers per se because they don't make money through social media, but they're so passionate to post this content online, to recommend a makeup product or to share this outfit of the day, the OTC. I was just why if you don't make money, so kind of what you get from this sharing this experience. So that kind of my initial question, and then I just started my PhD, and my focus is still in this young women beauty, fashion, lifestyle kind of content on social media, but the question shapes a little bit, and then because I just came from this communication and media studies background, of course, I would also be interested in platforms and social media kind of industry in China as well. Yeah, that's just yeah, and also for me, there's a lot of this stereotypical comments around beauty influencers or people, women who post this things online. This is very superficial. So there's a lot of this stereotypical comments, or there's a lot of stigmas going on. But I cannot argue yes, this more complicated if we think the consumer cultures, we think the globalization, and also we also need to kind of give young women's agency. They have rights to self-represent and self-express on social media. They are much more than the surface level. Some people think this is just beauty, this is just fashion, but they are much more behind.
Well, I really do hope that we get to speak about this more in detail because it's something that I would like to hear more about as well. And it seems that you're very passionate about this subject, and that's what I love to hear on this podcast of people who are very passionate about what they're studying. But I'll have to leave it there for today, Dr. Jia Guo, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I've learned so much from you already. But for everyone out there listening, again, her report is called Platform Creator Discourse. So thank you again, Dr. Jia Guo.
Thank you.
And you may click on your next adventure now.